Can you make it that I don't have to see myself?
Sure. You like it sideways?
Yeah, thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Gavi Jaya Radha Madhava Gavi Vijaya Vallabha Girivala Gopijana Vallabha Girivala Yasodanandana Bhajana Jam Tira Vanacham Yamunatira Vanacham Jaya Radha Madhava Kundavihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Yasoda Raja Jana Jam Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Go on my table in my room. There's another second canto. This has all this variety of stuff. Fired up. We're on Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 24. Okay. The Ashmasara Vriyam Bhatidam. Yamana Harinama Jaya.
Yamana Harinama Jaya.
Navikriyetam Yadavikaro.
Navikriyetam
Nitridyalam Patsu Tirtharshivam. Ashmasharam Vilayam Patedam. Yagrayamaner Hriyamayaya. Nirikriyetam Yadavikaro. Nidrudanam Hatpuraheshavarshava. Ashmasharam Vilayam Patedam. Yagrayamaner Hriyamayaya. Nirikriyetam Yadavikaro. Nitridyanam Hatpuraheshavarshava.
Tarashmasharam Hridayam Vadedam Tarashmasharam Hridayam Vadedam Yadgrihamane Harinama Vidyate Tata Yada Vikaro Nidre Jalam Gatra Rupishu Harsha Nidre Jalam Gatra Rupishu Harsha.
That Ashmasharam is steel framed. Hridayam, heart. Batidam, certainly that. Yet, which Guyamanai, in spite of chanting. Harinam, holy name of the Lord. Vijaya, by concentration of the mind. Does not. Create change. Does. Yada. When. Vikara. Reaction. Netre. The eyes. Jalam. Ears. Gatra. At the pores. Harsha. Eruptions of ecstasy. Translation and purport. Vaisuvanga Srila Prabhupada. Certainly that heart is still framed which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and hairs stand on end. It's interesting. Even with concentration. And it's pretty hard to concentrate. It's just Kali Yuga Mata. But here, with concentration. Okay, here's the purport. It's another this whole section is filled with famous verses. Purport. We should note with profit that in the first 3 chapters of the second canto, a gradual process of development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, the first step in devotional service for God consciousness by the process of hearing and chanting has been stressed, and a gross conception of the personality of Godhead in his universal form for the beginners is recommended. By such a gross conception of God through the material manifestations of his energy, one is enabled to spiritualize the mind and the senses and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as the Super Soul in every heart and everywhere, in every atom of the material universe. The system of Pancha Upasana, recommending 5 mental attitudes for the common man, is also enacted for this purpose, namely gradual development. Worship of the superior that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living beings, Lord Shiva, and at last the impersonal Supersoul, the partial representation of Lord Vishnu. They are all described in the 2nd chapter, but in the 3rd chapter, further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship, or pure devotional service, and the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested herein in relation to the change of heart. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. Vidhi Bhakti, or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands, and the legs, as already explained herein, is now stressed herein in relation to the mind, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. And if there is no change, the heart must be considered steel-framed. For it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional service, and if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of Godhead. If the reaction does not take place even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha. In the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about evading the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on end. The bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing in the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms very vividly, or explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishnu Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees, but the pseudo-symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to many forbidden things. Even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, or illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes these symptoms are willfully imitated, and for this reason Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. Like Prabhupada was in Hawaii, and the devotees having kirtan in Los Angeles, and one Indian man came in, and during the kirtan he started rolling around the ground. Maybe he's a great saint. So one devotee wrote Prabhupada, and Prabhupada we're having kirtan. This man came in, he's rolling around the ground. And what did Prabhupada say? Kick him. If he doesn't get upset, then he's a saint. But if he gets angry, then he's a pretender. There's a lot of pretenders. And they're even able to cry. It's like they could actually practice crying. They could become expert at crying. And it looks good. They've got a feeling, they come up with the feelings, and then the tears come. Whoa. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms. Yet if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. So here Prabhupada is saying sometimes they actually, something does happen, but then some sincere feelings do come. But Prabhupada says if they don't give up their forbidden habits, then they're hopeless. When Lord Chaitanya met Ramananda Roy, Srila Ramananda Roy of Kavur, on the bank of the Godavari, the Lord developed all these symptoms. But because of the presence of some non-devotee Brahmanas who were attendants of the Roy, the Lord suppressed these symptoms. So sometimes they are not visible even in the body of the first-class devotee for certain circumstantial reason. It's like Prabhupada, a few times he would go into ecstasy, chanting Jayaratamana. And it was, if you can imagine the whole atmosphere, it becomes like Vrindavan. One time in Atlanta, boys were paying obeisances. Prabhupada was doing the Jayam prayers, and water shot from Prabhupada's eyes and hit some of the devotees. And one devotee said, Prabhu, did you see, did you feel it? Yeah. I just wanted to confirm and make sure I wasn't hallucinating. So Prabhupada had these ecstasies. Therefore, real steady bhav is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires, shanti, utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, avyartha kaladam, eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly, namagane sadarachi, attraction for living in the land of the Lord, pritis tad visuddhi sale, complete detachment from material happiness, viraktir, and pridelessness, manasunyata. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the Bhava stage, as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. It's interesting, it says offenseless, perfectly offenseless, and is friendly. So it's not you got to be completely offenseless, but you got to be friendly to everybody. Also, very interesting. So many times in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how he's pleased that people are friendly to others. In Kali Yuga, it's not easy. It's an age of quarrel and hypocrisy. People get disturbed very easily, prying out how you pass them. Above all, always disturbed. So to be friendly, to always be friendly, that's not easy. And the result of such a realization is reflected in the cessation of all material desires. That is, which is mentioned above. The neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulation without following the acharyas. As such, even if they make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Therefore, the show of tears in the eyes, trembling, perspiration, or unconsciousness, etc., is condemned. They can, however, get in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the return path home back to Godhead will depend on the instructions of the real scriptures directed by a realized devotee. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a realized devotee instructing us. Om Jnana Tamanandasya Gnanjana Salakaya Chakshum Lutam Jina Tasmai Shri Shivani Mama from Kuvacharan from Shri Yet Krishna Hum Bande Shri Guru Ninijanam Vanchikapati Pischati Prasini Desha Adipaditana Bhavani Vaisvasya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Svasti Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama. In the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada says that there's sometimes people get bitten by snakes, poisonous snakes, and there's these people that are able to remove the effect of the poison simply by chanting mantras. Pretty amazing. So Prabhupada goes on to explain that in this material world, in this age of Kali especially, people have been bitten by Maya. And the poison is the lust, the anger, the greed, and the illusion. It's the poison which has affected the conditioned souls. But there's a way to overcome the effects of this poison, and that is by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So this has the power to remove this poison. Hare Krishna mantra is very powerful. It said that the jewel in Krishna's treasury is the Hare Krishna mantra, by which the living entity can attain prema. So this is the most valuable jewel in Krishna's treasury. And we have it. We just have to take advantage and try our best to chant offenselessly. The big challenge. Very difficult, very difficult to chant offenselessly. But it's possible. As it is said, practice.
It's perfect.
That's perfect. Yes. So there's many instances showing how the effect of the mantra works. And of course, not just that, but association. Association is so important, as I think we heard yesterday. Association is so important. It's because of the association of Srila Prabhupada that we chant Hare Krishna. It's because of Prabhupada's coming and giving us the Hare Krishna mantra. Prabhupada said, I had great faith in the holy name. How will they understand? I have great faith in the holy name. So he brought the holy name to the world. Prabhupada said, my desire is that the holy name, Krishna, become a household word. And this happened with one instance where this devotee, Balavantan, his GBC, he was in his living room and his daughter came running in and said, Pita, Pita, Bugs Bunny's chanting Hare Krishna. Bugs Bunny's chanting. He said, what? He ran in there, Bugs Bunny's rolling about. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. That's pretty household there. Millions of kids got to hear the holy name, Krishna. So, when we become free of contamination, then that effect will be there. I think there's this amazing pastime of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He had invited Lord Chaitanya to have prasad at his home. So Lord Chaitanya went there, and somehow Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he had this son-in-law that was very envious. He was so envious that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was at the door with a stick, just in case he came. I mean, I don't know what he did to have such a reputation, but he did. He must have did some really bad stuff. I mean, a father-in-law generally is like a father to the son-in-law, in India especially. But he was with a stick. So his wife was serving out prasadam to Lord Chaitanya, and at one point he saw that she needed a little help, so he became inattentive in his guard duty, and he wouldn't help her. But in that inattentive period, Amoga stuck his head in there and looked at all the prasadam. He said, "What is this? This is enough food for 12 people. What kind of a sannyasi is this?" And when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, when he heard that, he looked at Amoga. And if a glance could burn somebody, he would have been burned. So he saw that glance and he went running. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he went chasing him with his stick. Of course, he couldn't catch him. He's an elderly person, but he was lamenting like anything that Lord Chaitanya had come to his home and was insulted. And his wife said, "May my daughter become a widow." They both wanted him to just die. That's her rascal. But Lord Chaitanya, what did he do? He just laughed. It's okay. He's right, I shouldn't beat him so much. So, Sarvabhauma, he was so upset. Then Lord Chaitanya, he went to his quarters and The next day, Gopinath Acharya, he went to go visit Lord Chaitanya. And he said, and how is Sarvacharya and his wife doing? Well, they're still fasting. They haven't eaten since that incident. He said, oh, why are they taking it so serious? It's not a big deal. And Amoga, how's Amoga? He's dying. Cholera. So Lord Chaitanya said, take me to him. It's described hastily they went. And Lord Chaitanya went into his room. He's on his deathbed. And Lord Chaitanya, he put his hand on his chest and he said, Amoga, you are born into a very nice Brahmin family. Why have you allowed this chandala of envy to enter your heart, making it not a nice place for Krishna to sit? However, because you are related to Sarvacharya, all the contamination is now removed. And when the heart is pure, one naturally chants Hare Krishna. So he took his hand off his chest and said, now chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. And the moment he jumped out of the bed, sounds deathbed, back in bed, and he's chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. And he pays obeisances to Lord Chaitanya. He says, Lord Chaitanya, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for my offenses. This mouth has blasphemed you, the Supreme Personality of God. So then he started hitting his face. Very hard, not soft like this, but very hard, till it became swollen. And then Gopinath Acharya, he was there, so he restrained him. He got his hands. So he became a great devotee by the mercy of Sarvacharya. He had that association. This is an important thing to know. If we become dear to a great devotee, Krishna appreciates that. It's like, if you love me, love my dog. So if we have near relations with dear devotees, this is very advantageous to our progress. Another example is King Prataparudra. Now, when Lord Chaitanya went to Jagannath Puri, King Prataparudra, he heard of the greatness of Lord Chaitanya and Sarvacharya. He said he's the Supreme Personality of God. And he had great faith in Sarvacharya, so he accepted immediately. This is God. So he wanted to get his darshan. There's a problem. He's a king. And back then, it was very looked down upon, totally, for a sannyasi to even see a king, because kings, generally they're very licentious and doing all kind of sense gratification. So it was, unheard of for a sannyasi, for a real sannyasi to go and see a king. So, but he wanted that darshan, so Sarvacharya, he went to ask him, this king, he wants your darshan. He said, no, that's not possible, because he's the king. I mean, but they said, no, but he's a great devotee, but that's okay. But it's just like it's staying on a white sheet. Be a king. Won't work. But then Ramananda Roy, it's mentioned here in the purport, probably mentioned Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was such a great devotee. He was one of the 3.5 very dear associates or servants of Lord Chaitanya. Who were the other 2.5? Sikhamahiti.
Ramananda Roy.
Madhavi and Ramananda Roy, Sikhamahiti, Swarup Damodar, and Madhavi. 3.5. Very dear. So Ramananda Roy also said, because he was working under King Prataparudra. And when Lord Chaitanya said to him, he went and visited him in Madras. He was he was in control of it. So he said, "Why don't you come? You stay with me in Jagannath Court." Well, I had to talk to the king, King Prataparudra. He was in charge of that area too. So King Prataparudra, he gave him, "Yeah, you go. You're so fortunate. Yeah, you go." And he even gave him his salad, his regular salad that he kept. So Ramananda Roy also heard how King Prataparudra wanted association of the Lord. So you got Sarvamacharya, Ramananda, even Lord Nityananda, he was vying he was on the side of King Prataparudra. Please, Lord, give me mercy. So we got three great persons. I think there was even more. So, but Lord Chaitanya, he said, "I will listen." Actually, compromise. Send his son, because the son, he's part of they're one. The son and the father, they're one. Send the son, and the son was very beautiful. So he reminded Lord Chaitanya of Krishna, so beautiful. So I think he gave him a piece of cloth, also, right? And on the piece of his cloth, he gave that to the boy to give to his father, and then they came up with it. I think it's Slower Down or Sarvamacharya. He said, Lord Chaitanya is going to he's going to go to a garden, and he's going to rest after the Rath Yatra. So take off your royal dress, and you go and you chant the 5 chapters. What is that in the 10th canto, the Gopi songs of the Gopi? Yeah. So yeah, he was a scholar. He did memorize. He's just there. He's chanting these verses, and Lord Chaitanya is feeling ecstasy. Then when he got to this verse, Tavakatamratam tapta jivanam kavarbihiditam kamasatam shravanamangalam shivanatman bhuvi gunanti bhuvi dajana. Lord Chaitanya just went into ecstasy. He said, repeat it again, repeat it again, repeat it again. Who are you? I'm a servant, your servant. Of course, Lord Chaitanya knows everything. So he got the mercy. So this verse is such a great verse. That your glories are relished by those who are suffering in the material world. The great saintly devotees, they say that simply by hearing these glories, one becomes free of all sensual reactions, simply by hearing the name, hearing the glories of Krishna. Covered by Editam Kam, Shravana Mangalam. Shravana Mangalam. It's by hearing these glories, it becomes all auspicious simply to hear the name of Krishna, hear the pastimes of Krishna. Covered by Editam Kam Asapam. And those who are spreading the glories of Krishna, they are the most beneficent. So this is the Sankirtan verse, spoken by the Gopis. And so those persons who are distributing the glories of Krishna, they are the most beneficent. And many times I've been on book distribution, and I'm just thinking, wow, this is such a wonderful activity. And it's actually the safest position to be in the material world. There was actually one devotee, he left his body on book distribution. You heard about that? Many, many, many years ago. I don't know, he had a heart attack or something. But what a great place to leave your body. Back home. So, and sometimes I was thinking also as distributing books yesterday, you know how when we're distributing quite often, I'll say, no, I'm good. I'm okay. then I was thinking, but you're not okay. And I think, well, I wish I was okay. So they think they're okay, but they're not okay. And the Yamadutras get it. And they're going to say, no, no, I'm good. I'm all right. They can't just, ignore the Yamaduta. And everything that happens in their life is being recorded. So this moment that we're distributing books to people, we approach people, that's the most important moment in their life. Because here they get an opportunity to hear about Krishna. But they know, no, no, it's okay. I'm good. It's wasting the human form of life. And here now they're getting an opportunity to wake up, to get out of the material world, to get this opportunity to start the process of purification. So unfortunate. So unfortunate. First, some are fortunate, they take books and some read them, some get and they don't read. When I was in LA, I met a person who had received a Srimad Bhagavatam set from me about 5 years ago. They said, unfortunately, I haven't started reading it. Come read it. It's a great book. You should read it. So unfortunate. So many people get the books and they don't read. Even devotees. And I remember there's a devotee in the book distributor in Europe. He said, Vijaya, can you give me some advice? I'm kind of struggling a little bit on book distribution. I said, well, what I do is I read Bhagavad Gita every day. It helps me a lot. He said, I don't like Bhagavad Gita. I was like, did I hear that right? He's a devotee and a book distributor. And he said those words. I don't like Bhagavad Gita. He's been distributing books for 10 years. Just couldn't believe it. So I said, well, pray to Krishna, and I'll pray for Krishna also, that you get a taste for hearing Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is such an inspiration. Such an inspiration. So, in this verse, it says that those who chant the holy name, but they don't feel the ecstasy, then it's, what is it? It's, their heart is steel framed heart. So we're trying to remove this steel frame, soften the heart, but we have to, even though it says here with concentration, we have to really, it's interesting that he says this in this verse, because that's one of the most important parts of chanting. We have to chant, but not just attentively, but with a desire to serve. It's like I recently heard in this, they have these japa affirmations by Hatton. It's very interesting. He says in one place that the devotee said, but Prabhupada, I'm chanting, but it doesn't seem like it's working. And Prabhupada said that Krishna hears you, and he says, I hear you, I'm here. What is it you want? What do you want? So what is it that we want? We want, our innermost desire to be, I want to serve Krishna. I want to please Krishna. So the more we realize that we're the soul within, that we're not the mind, we're not the body, we're not these senses, we're the soul within, we're part of Krishna, the more we realize this, the more we'll just want to serve Krishna. So we have to pray for that single pointed desire to just serve Krishna. And Krishna is the most munificent. He's the ocean of mercy. But this humility is needed. Tunadapi sunichena, tarorapi sisnamagna magmena kirtini sadari. Just like we heard how this mantra takes away the poison. Snake bites somebody, it takes away the poison, the poisonous effect. In the Hare Krishna mantra, this takes away the poison of lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion. So this mantra, Janadapi Sunichana, what does this remind us of? We got to be humble. Got to be humble. We're very, very small and significant. I remember there was one instance where a sannyasi was talking about this verse, how a devotee thinks himself lower than the strongest tree, more tolerant than a tree. So I said, well, this analogy doesn't really fit, because more tolerant than a tree. Someone goes and carves their initial in the tree, but the tree can't say anything. The tree's in the cold with the snow, or it's hot. The tree can't complain. It can't speak. So what's the analogy? So this sannyasi gave a very good reply. He said, therefore, a devotee is more tolerant than a tree, because a devotee can protest. He can complain, but he doesn't. Therefore, he's more tolerant. Tree. The tree would complain if it could. But a devotee, he can, but he doesn't. Therefore, Prabhupada says in the purport, said, better to tolerate than to protest. Better to tolerate than to protest. It's like some things might happen to us. Well, why me? I've heard devotees say that. Why me? Why is this happening to me? But there's the verse. What's the verse? Tatena kampam sisnabiksamanam gunjana eva pitami bhakan Ridvan Purvir Vidham Namaste Jiveta Yomukti Pradesi Ayava. Again, in the Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada says in the Nectar Devotion, this verse is the guide for all devotees. And the meaning is always seeking your compassion, thus tolerating all difficulties as being due to his own past activities, and serving you with his mind, body, and words. Such a devotee is eligible to inherit the kingdom of God. So if we just carry on in Krishna consciousness, being humble, tolerant, serving Krishna, then we'll receive the inheritance. And Prabhupada says, if there's a very wealthy man, all the son has to do is live, and he gets the inheritance. That's all he has to do. So all we have to do is continue on living in Krishna consciousness, and we will receive the inheritance. And the best inheritance is Krishna Bhakti. So we have to just patiently continue on, trying our best, and Krishna will do the rest. So if there's any question? Yes.
In the verse translation, why is it that ecstasy is taking place, tears are filling the eyes, but still the heart is not changed? If one's experiencing those symptoms, it doesn't mean the heart has been changed at a very high level.
Well, let's read the verse. Certainly that heart is still framed, which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes, and that's another one. Hairs stand on the end. That's another symptom of ecstasy. Well, although tears may fill the eyes and hairs stand on end, I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that the heart is completely pure. Yeah.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary explains this. Practically the entire verse is explaining his question.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just give a brief reading from it. He says, in devotees with a very deep experience of prema, let's see, However, it should not be said that simply by tears and hair standing on end that a person has a melted heart. Rupa Goswami says when a person has a hard heart and practices exhibiting the sattvika bhava without even a touch of emotion, the appearance of tears and other symptoms are called nisatvata. And devotees with a very deep experience of prema, external tears and hair standing on end may not be seen, even though they have melted hearts. Therefore, this verse should be explained as follows. That heart which does not transform with chanting, but still has tears in the eyes and hair standing on end, should be considered an iron heart. The extraordinary symptoms of transformation of the heart should be the list of items starting with shantir. Shantir
Well, this is from the purport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prabhupada mentions that they make a show. They make a show of the tears, but I don't know how they do that with the hair standing on it. But I've heard about the tears. They're able to practice, and then the tears are coming. So yeah, they're pretentious. They're just pretenders. So this is what that the verse is talking about. So if one is actually pure and not trying to make a show, then when the tears come and the hair is done, and the heart is actually pure. If the humility is not there in these guys that are pretending, but in the real devotee, the humility is there, and they even, as Prabhupada mentions, they'll try to avoid people seeing them with with emotional ecstasies. Yeah.
Sense in the program, he explains pretty much what the whole Western spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate self, which is his eternal constitutional position. So with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the gratitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. That's the change.
Yeah. Shanti Avyartha Kala. It's not necessarily just external, but being forgiving, Shanti Avyartha Kala, not wasting time. These are there's a whole list of them. This is a symptom of someone who began to advance or develop love for Krishna. Shanti Avyartha Kala, Virakti, detachment, Anasunyata, Virakti Anasunyata. Yeah, so this is the internal change in the heart, these symptoms. Anything else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the nice class. Kautuk Arnav Das and Adinath Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Prabhu, I have a question. Are you able to hear me?
I'm hearing you. We're all hearing you.
Okay. Prabhu, you mentioned about the importance of reading the books
Yeah.
in order to distribute them. So many times, if I'm reading the same chapters again and again, it becomes repetitive and hackneyed. How can I maintain the enthusiasm to read again?
Well, yeah, we have this chat. We read a chapter every day, so we've read many of these verses, many, 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 many times. But they're not material; they're completely spiritual, and we should understand that. And yeah, the mind will think, "Ah, this is I read this, This is old, but this is just the mind. But the soul, no, this is transcendental. This is transcendental wisdom. I get to hear it again and again, and hopefully, eventually, it'll sink into our dull skull, and we'll understand it. I mean, even Vaiseshika Maharaj, he said he's been doing the chant for over 45 years. He keeps on doing it, and he's one of the most ecstatic devotees there is. So it works. Judged by the results. Paulina Parachiyate. Judged by the results. Here's someone that's been doing it, doing it, doing it, and doing it. He's ecstatic. So, yeah. Don't listen to our mind. I've heard this before. This is the words of Krishna, the ever fresh instructions of Krishna.
Prabhu, is it recommended to read other explanations of Bhagavad Gita? For example, many devotees have written more books, just like Surrender Unto Me by Bhurijan Prabhu, and then we also had a book by Prabhupada Priya Mataji, who visited recently, Living Gita, so that we get more context on the same shlokas. Is it recommended?
Well, they're giving comment.
Yeah, they add up. They present it in different ways.
Yeah, that's okay. These are serious devotees, and they're giving their realizations. And Prabhupada one time he said he was gonna write another Bhagavad Gita. The devotee said, "Well, Prabhupada, you already translate it." He said, "That's right. You can do it again." It's all right. It didn't happen, but he was thinking of doing it. There's so many devotees, they can get so many wonderful realizations from the teachings of Krishna. But as far as the translation, we should stick to the Prabhupada's translation.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. His Grace Vijaya Prabhu ki jai. Hari Bol.
Much love.